For 3 decades, Johnny Carson ruled late-night television like no other. His charm, wit, and timing turned The Tonight Show into an American institution. He wasn't just a host, he was the kingmaker. A single invitation to Carson's couch could transform an unknown comic into a household name overnight. Robin Williams, Joan Rivers, Jay Leno, David Letterman all owed part of their success to Carson's approval. But there was one name missing from that list: Jerry Seinfeld. The man who created one of television's most successful sitcoms, the face of comedy in the 90 seconds, and one of the highest-paid entertainers in the world, never received Johnny's blessing. And it wasn't an accident. Carson never warmed to him, never embraced him. Some say he outright despised him. Why would the king of comedy snub the man behind Seinfeld? Was it jealousy, personal dislike, or something deeper about what comedy was becoming? By the end of this story, you'll see why Johnny's silence toward Jerry spoke louder than words, and why it still matters. In the golden age of television, Carson's approval wasn't just a pat on the back, it was a ticket to immortality. If Johnny liked your set, you'd be invited over to the couch for a chat. That moment meant everything. Comedians described the invite as being knighted. Some even said it felt like being baptized into the world of professional comedy. The audience knew it too. Carson's nod of approval was worth more than any paycheck. From Robin Williams' wild energy to Joan Rivers' sharp wit, Carson introduced America to comedians who went on to define a generation. But Jerry Seinfeld? He never got that golden moment. And that was no accident. 1993 was Jerry Seinfeld's peak. His sitcom dominated Thursday nights. Critics hailed him as a genius. At 38, he was untouchable in Hollywood. Then came Shoshanna Lonstein, a 17-year-old student he met in Central Park. Their relationship, heavily photographed, sparked outrage. While Seinfeld insisted they were just friends until she turned 18, the public wasn't convinced. The 21-year age gap, combined with her still being in high school, drew harsh criticism. Carson, by then in his late 60 seconds, saw this as crossing a line. He was old-school class, discretion, and dignity mattered. An insider from The Tonight Show revealed that Carson quietly told his writers to drop any jokes about Jerry and Shoshanna after a monologue attempt fell flat. Johnny tolerated a lot, one NBC executive recalled. But this crossed a boundary for him. To him, Jerry had shown himself to be something less than a gentleman. The scandal didn't sink Jerry's career. But in Carson's world, respect once lost was impossible to regain. Onstage, Jerry Seinfeld was polished, clever, and in control. Offstage, insiders say he was cold and detached. Crew members described him as professional but distant, rarely engaging with staff, seldom thanking anyone, keeping an invisible wall between himself and others. Carson was the opposite. Despite being one of the most famous men in America, Johnny remembered stagehands' names, asked about their families, and showed genuine warmth. His Midwestern upbringing shaped his belief that no one was beneath him. This contrast did not go unnoticed. Writers later said Johnny admired comedians with layers, those who combined wit with humility. Seinfeld, in Johnny's eyes, had wit but lacked warmth. It wasn't enough to be funny. To Carson, you had to be human. The divide grew wider when it came to money. Carson, though he earned hundreds of millions, lived relatively modestly. He had nice cars and beautiful homes, yes, but he never flaunted them. He considered bragging about wealth in poor taste. "You don't get funnier when your garage gets bigger," he once quipped. Seinfeld was the opposite. His car collection, over 100 Porsches, became legendary. His private jet travel was routine. He openly discussed his $100 million per year syndication earnings. He even built entire shows, like Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, around his luxury possessions. For Carson, who grew up in Depression-era Nebraska, this was tone-deaf. Comedy came from struggle, from ordinary life. Flaunting wealth alienated the audience. Where Carson saw comedy as connection, Jerry seemed to turn it into status. Carson spent 30 years perfecting the talk show. The monologue, the desk, the interviews, he turned the format into an art form. Letterman and Leno followed his blueprint. Jerry Seinfeld dismissed it all. Promoting comedians in cars, he said he wasn't interested in fake interviews or pretend enthusiasm. To him, the traditional talk show was outdated. Though he never named Carson, insiders said Johnny felt the sting. Here was a man who had built his career with Carson's platform, now declaring that format meaningless. Johnny reportedly remarked in retirement, "Without talk shows, Jerry would still be performing in pizza parlors." Delivered with a twinkle, but it revealed the wound. For Carson, the talk show wasn't just entertainment, it was America's nightly conversation. To dismiss it was to dismiss his life's work. Johnny valued comedians who bared their souls. Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Robin Williams, they tackled race, addiction, pain, and joy. They made you laugh and think. Seinfeld proudly avoided all that. "I'm not interested in feelings," he once said. "I'm interested in funny." Technically brilliant, yes. But to Carson, Jerry's comedy was all surface. No struggle, no vulnerability, no emotional depth. Carson, who had endured divorces, the loss of his son, and battles with alcohol, believed comedy should help people feel less alone. Jerry, in his view, offered only distraction. As one longtime Carson friend put it, "Jerry made you laugh, but Johnny didn't think he ever made you feel." If Johnny rejected Seinfeld, he embraced someone else, Norm Macdonald. Carson rarely commented on comedians after retirement, but he made an exception for Norm. He reportedly told friends, "He's the only comic who reminds me of myself. Dry, fearless, willing to bomb if it meant staying true to his voice." Norm represented authenticity. When Norm died in 2021 after a private 9-year battle with cancer, comedians across generations paid tribute. Letterman, Conan, Adam Sandler all shared stories. Jerry Seinfeld said nothing. Not a tweet, not a statement. Silence. For Carson loyalists, this confirmed everything Johnny had believed, that Jerry lacked generosity of spirit and respect for comedy's traditions. In the end, the feud between Carson and Seinfeld wasn't just about two men. It was about eras colliding. Carson's era valued class, humility, and shared national moments. Seinfeld's era prized wealth, detachment, and niche appeal. Carson never gave Jerry his blessing. To him, Jerry was technically flawless but spiritually empty. As Carson once told a friend, "There are comedians who make you laugh until you cry, and then there are comedians who make you laugh until you think." I'm still waiting for Jerry to make me think. That line may be the final word on their silent rivalry. And it leaves us with a question. Which approach has stood the test of time? Carson's warmth and depth, or Seinfeld's cool precision?